Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm Susan Court, the MC for the Loving Our Community auction, and I'm very happy right now to be joined by Irv Smalls, who is the Director of Parsonages for Love Inc., and also wears another hat. He's an Associate Chaplain at Penn State Health. Hello, Irv. How are you?
Very good. How are you, Susan?
Fine. I'm excited for people to learn more about the Love Inc. parsonages because probably a lot of people in our community don't know because they don't have a need for the parsonages. Tell us what they do and what service they provide.
Well, the Loving Parsonage, as I mentioned, is a partnership with the Hershey Medical Center and only the Hershey Medical Center. And what we provide for them is, we can say, a home away from home for families and guests of the patient who is staying over at the Hershey Medical Center. So doing that, each of these guests or families that come to stay with us have an opportunity to receive a room. Really, it's more than a room. They actually have a full house, living room, dining room, kitchen, opportunity to prepare their own meals, television, Wi-Fi access. All of these are free to the guests who are able to stay with us during this time period.
What a wonderful service. I'm sure it brings you a lot of joy, but also a lot of comfort to the people who are able to stay with you.
True, yes, it is.
Now, how long has the parsonage been around? And I understand there are two of them. So tell us a little bit about the history.
Yes. Well, I would say the parsonage actually started in the year 2008. My understanding was the Loving Ministry had already been in town and was establishing themselves. And as I mentioned, at some point in time, I had completed my residency at the Hershey Medical Center in chaplaincy. So I heard about a survey that was occurring that the Med Center wanted to find out, so where do all of these guests and family members actually stay when they come to visit their loved ones? And so the survey found out that some of the guests were sleeping in their cars overnight in the winter. And upper staff did not agree with that. So they went to the ministerium and said, can you help us? And it turned out that a member from Spring Creek Church of the Brethren was at that meeting, went back to their church and said, we're not using our parsonage. Can we give this to Love Inc.? So again, in 2008, that's when we got started. But in my case, I came on in 2009 and we were able to help them move forward in providing additional service for the Med Center. So 2008 is when we got started.
Do you have any idea over the course of all these years how many people have been through the doors of the parsonages?
Thousands.
Really? Oh my goodness.
Really thousands. So on an average, we see about 150 to 170 families per year.
Wow.
That's just per family. But keep in mind that each family may bring some guests with them. So at the parsonages, we have the Spring Creek Parsonage, which is in Hershey. And then we have the Union Deposit Parsonage, which is in Union Deposit near Hummelstown, but it's still Derry Township. At Spring Creek, we have 4 bedrooms and 2 beds per room. And you can have up to 4 individuals in that room. So at Spring Creek, you can have 16. At Union Deposit, you can have 12. So when the house is full, you have a lot going on there.
And I bet the people who stay there help each other too.
Absolutely. So as we mentioned, you can have up to 150 to 170 families within a year, but you can have between 300 and 350 guests within a year. So if you can imagine what that looks like, that's a large number of family members.
That's a lot of people. Now, what are the requirements to stay at the parsonage?
Yes. Okay, so since the partnership is between the Med Center and Hershey, we only ask the Med Center, the social worker, the care coordinators, the chaplaincy departments, so all of their staff chaplains and residents, including doctors, can call and make a referral to the parsonage that we have a patient here, but we have family either in town or coming from out of town, and they will need a place to stay. So they can call us, and our house managers, we have 5 house managers at Spring Creek, and we have 4 house managers over at Union Deposit. They're the ones who are doing the registering of the guests when they come in. So those referrals come from the med center, and then we're able to do the intake and provide the residency for them and their new home away from home.
What a blessing to be able to have that roof over their head while they have a loved one at the Hershey Medical Center. What kinds of questions do the guests ask, and what can you and the other volunteers and staff do to make the experience even better for them?
Well, obviously, when they first come in and they're registering, our house managers, I'd just like to say a little about them. Our house managers come from a variety of churches in the community. So all of our volunteers are part of an ecumenical ministry, and that's beautiful. But when the guests come, they have some key questions that they tend to ask over and over. One would be, how long can I stay here? Or how much does it cost for me to stay? And Susan, I must say that while those are 2 of the key questions that are asked, how long can I stay? One of the requirements is you can stay here for a minimum of 30 days, free of charge.
So I mean, they can stay up to 30 days. So maximum of 30, right?
Maximum of 30 days. Now, even though we say maximum of 30 days, we have never asked a family to leave as long as the med center, the medical staff that's working with the family, that patient, when I do family consultation with them, if we find out that the doctors are saying this patient is so critical, they really need care, then we say to the family, as long as your loved one is here in the hospital, then we don't want you to worry about your length of stay. We've actually had patients who've stayed with us a maximum of 295 days in a row.
Oh my gosh.
No cost.
I can't even begin to imagine the number of stories that you've heard over your years of being involved with the parsonages. But if anything comes to mind that you could share with the people watching this about the comfort and the joy that the parsonages bring to the guests, please do. I think people would want to hear how it's touched the lives of the people who've stayed with you.
Well, as you mentioned, there are many, and I think it is the stories that we hear and we share with the guests and the family who stay with us. It's those that we claim as volunteers, those are our rewards, to just hear their story. And one that comes to mind is a woman whose husband was in the hospital, and he was there and he was waiting for a liver transplant. He was last on the list. And the wife was so dedicated, she would go back and forth to the med center every day, and she would stay pretty much until late at night, and she would come back and she would want to have that time for her was a special cup of tea. And so she would say over and over, the parsonage, my new home away from home, was the time for my special cup of tea. And so that was her favorite statement that she used to make. But the beauty in this was we walked with her. I mean, every house manager who met her, whether it's the Monday through Friday, and we have a house manager for each day, they would share with her and pray with her. And lo and behold, this one day she came back and she told us that the doctor said they had great news for her. They found a liver for him, and it was specific for her husband. So while he was the last on the list, this liver was for him, and he
the best. Yeah.
Top priority. He got the transplant, and she actually was so excited about the story she was sharing with one of the house managers about, I think it's about the mustard seed. Would you know that after he got the liver, she brought him back to the parsonage so he could meet all of the people that that was caring for her and praying for him. She literally wrote a book and actually gave us a copy of it, and we have it in all of our parsonages.
Oh my goodness.
That's one we will never forget.
Well, you all became a part of her family in a time of need, and I'm sure she was very, very thankful, as is everyone who comes through your doors. And Irv, we can't thank you enough for all you do for people in need coming through Dairy Township who need Hershey Medical Center, and everything you do for Love Inc. You are a blessing to this organization. So thank you very much for sharing your stories, and continued good luck to you in your service.
Thank you very much.